Okay, so we're going to continue, and we're going to talk about dreams. We talked a little bit about it at the end of last week, but I think it's worth it just to go over that part again, and then we'll see what else the Ramchal has to say about dreams. We didn't finish the whole thing last week, and hopefully that will bring us to the end of this chapter. So if you have the Naaman edition, it's page 361. It's part 3, chapter 1, section 6. And this part 3, which we're doing, part 3 is about prophecy, nevuah, how Hashem communicates with us, with human beings. So we know that after already a couple thousand years ago, we haven't had prophecy where Hashem talks to somebody directly. Sorry, I just had a notification on my computer. But we still have certain ways that Hashem may communicate with us. We mentioned last week that sometimes a person gets a sense of something, and that's really his neshama, his or her neshama sensing that thing. And it says, it quotes the Gemara Megillah, Af al gav de'iu lo chaze, mazle chaze. Even though he didn't see it, his mazel saw it. So he gets a sense of something. And Rabbi Naaman writes in the footnote that you shouldn't think that every intuition you have is like a direct message from your neshama, but there is such a thing. So one of the ways that it could be possible for Hashem to communicate with us, or for us to get messages from the upper worlds, is through dreams. Now, we're going to learn that even though that it's possible to get messages from the upper worlds, it could be that we really shouldn't be relying on them for various reasons, and we're going to learn that. So when the Ramchal started this section, he started talking about the different parts of the soul. He said there's a lower nefesh that we have, what's called the lower soul that we share with animals, and then there's something called the neshama, the part of our soul which connects to Hashem, and connects to the spiritual worlds. So let's start there on page 361. V'ula, ra'asa chachma halyayna lechalek hazman l'shnei chalakim. Hashem saw fit to split time into two separate periods. Ha'echad lepoel habrios, one, that his creatures, his creation should do things and be active. V'ha'echad limnuchasam, for their rest. So we have a time when we're awake, when we do stuff, and we have a time when we sleep, when we get rest. This is day and night. During the day is when we do stuff. And at night is when we rest. It's a time when creatures get to sleep and their spirit also rests from their work. So, and we mentioned that last time, this is just something I haven't researched since last week, but I remember someone bringing up the issue that if evolution means the survival of the fittest, then why is it that creatures evolved to, especially humans, to spend a third of their lifetimes asleep when they're vulnerable to predators, which that wouldn't make you the fittest creature. But here, we're going to learn that from our perspective, sleep provides rest for the soul and for the body, and also it's going to be an opportunity for the soul to have a certain connection with the upper worlds. And the Vilna Gaon says actually that during a person's sleep, he can get certain secrets of Torah that he wouldn't get that he wouldn't necessarily merit to get when he is awake. Okay, Uba also has man yachlif mitziyusam kayach. In that time, when a person is sleeping, his strength is renewed. B'chol chalakav hagufanim v'hnafshim, in all physical and spiritual aspects. V'yashuvu chadashim l'bekarim l'avodasam k'rishayna, and a person returns to his service of Hashem, to his work, the next day with the renewed vigor. So, sleep, it's really a big chesed, a very big kindness for Hashem, because if you had a bad day, it's not one continuous line. We have it broken up, so if you had a bad day, the next day is a totally new opportunity to have a better day. Okay, so let's see what happens when a person sleeps. V'hine, v'yosa adam yashin, when a person is sleeping, kachaisav nachos, his strength is quiet, his different, his faculties, he translates it as v'hargashoisav shketos, his feelings are quiet, v'haskalaso gamkei nacha v'shaketes, and his mind is at rest. V'rak hadimyu levado yifol v'yelech. Oh, it's only his imagination what works during his sleeping. So we mentioned before, the Ramchal talked about different parts of a person's mind, and he mentioned that there was intellect and there's imagination. It's two separate parts. So the intellect of a person is not active when we sleep, but the imagination is. There will be certain images that appear in his head, certain things that come into his head when he's sleeping. According to what happened, based on what happened to him, based on what happened to him during the day. Very often we dream about what we saw during the day. Right? Yesterday I was listening to 770 and I heard Rudy Giuliani, and I had a dream about Rudy Giuliani. Very common, right? We dream about what we experienced during the day. So some people that might be a very good dream, some people that might be a nightmare. It depends who you are. And then he talks about also dreams can be caused by certain vapors that come to a person's brain, whether it's from natural things in his body or from what he eats. But his food, what he eats, can or natural physical processes could affect his dreams. V'amnam, chakak abar yizbarach shemo od shehanefesh al yainish zacharnu tenatik ktsas be'osu azman mikishurei hagufanim. At this time of sleep, the upper soul, which we discussed, detaches a little bit from the body. V'chalakim mimenu, in different parts of it. Dahainu ad haruach. So until the ruach. So you have in the upper soul, the nefesh, ruach, neshama, Chaya Yechida, as the Ramchal said earlier, we read last week. So the nefesh and so until the ruach, all the way down, that detaches from a person when he is sleeping. You misalim umenatkim min haguf. So these parts of the soul, these parts of the upper soul elevate to the upper worlds, the spiritual worlds, and they detach from the body. And only the nefesh, which is part of the neshama, according to the Ramchal's categorization, that upper nefesh stays in the body with the lower nefesh. The lower nefesh is what we share with the animals. So when we're sleeping, the only part of the soul that remains is the upper nefesh and the lower nefesh. The upper parts of the soul, they are roaming around where certain places that are available to them. And they have different things that they're doing in the upper worlds. Whether with the angels that are in charge of certain physical processes, or certain malachi hakabbalah, which is a certain set of angels. If you take a look on footnote 68, Rabbi Naaman discusses which angels he believes they're referring to. Omina Shedim, or on the other hand, so the soul could be interacting with angels, or it could be interacting with demons, spiritual forces which are not so positive, which we've discussed previously. For whatever reason, the soul is interacting with a specific angel or specific demon or a specific spiritual force. That topic which the upper soul perceived when it was interacting with these spiritual forces will come down to the lower soul until the lower nefesh. And that will impact the imagination. And it will paint certain images in a person's mind. Now, so the soul here is interacting with upper spiritual forces, with angels or demons, but we don't know, and the message is going to get transferred down until the lower nefesh, until the lower soul. And then a person will have images appear in his mind. Now the issue is are these images from a good source or from a bad source? And are they true or are they not true? Just because it came from a spiritual source doesn't mean it's true. If it came from a demon, if it came from a shade, it's not a good thing. Now he says that in addition to that, not knowing the source of these images that are coming from the upper worlds, we also don't know to what point that these images are being mixed with other natural processes of the imagination, because we also mentioned that the imagination will make images and dreams based on what a person ate during the day or his experiences during the day. So you could have a whole mixture of different things going on in your dreams, and it could be a mixture of some spiritual thing that your soul perceived, and it could also be a mixture of something you had for lunch, or something you just had for dinner, or some bad tacos or something. So it's very mixed around, and it's difficult, if not impossible, it seems, if you don't know what you're doing, to interpret it properly. Okay. Ukvar tegila adam hodav gilei ozen. Now, while a person is sleeping, it is possible that he gets certain information through this means of dreams, to foretell future events which will happen to him. And what's going to happen in Hashem's decrees, that maybe something which is going to happen to him or her in the future will be told to his neshama, and that will go down into a person's imagination through whatever ministering angel or whatever it is. And it will go to the nefesh, and then it will get. So again, it could be that something's going to happen to you in the future, and Hashem sends through a malach to the neshama what's going to happen, and that goes down until the nefesh, the lower soul, and then it gets put in the imagination. It gets put in the imagination as a dream. Now it could be that the dream will be very clear, or not so clear. It could be in like a riddle or something, very closed, very hard to interpret. Whatever Hashem wants. It says, through dreams at night, a person will open the ear of man. We find that dreams are tziyurei hadimyan, they're mitzad atzmo, they are aspects of the imagination from themselves. Like we said, a dream could either be because it could be nonsense based on something has an event that happened to a person during the day, or it could be a real message to his neshama. And it happens that the neshama gets this message from one of the spiritual forces. And like we mentioned, the neshama will transfer that message to the person's imagination. Now, if the messenger which is giving this information to the neshama is from the holy ministers, the holy angels, it will be true, the dream will be true. And if it's from the not so great heavenly ministers, it will be false. The message she gets will be false. This is what the rabbis say, that this is referring to a Gemara in Brachos, that one place it seems to say that dreams are meaningful, and another place it seems to say that dreams are nonsense. So the Gemara says that when the dream comes through an angel, then the dreams are true. But when the dream comes through a negative spiritual force, then they are false. But he says, even if it came from an angel, it's still going to be mixed with other images that just came based on, the imagination doing its own thing based on either what you ate or your experience in the previous day. And this is what the rabbis say. It is impossible to have a dream without nonsense mixed into it. So one should be cautious before taking a dream seriously, because anyway, even if it's coming from even if it's a real spiritual message, it's going to be mixed with nonsense. Now, there's another type of dream, which are the dreams of prophecy, and that we're going to talk about later. Now, a dream of prophecy, that's a whole different thing. That's not just like dreaming when you're asleep, but we're going to learn that a prophet, when he had a dream, it was like a whole physical experience, and it wasn't just a dream the way we have it, and that is prophecy that he gets is true. So, just to summarize, dreams are a way, when a person sleeps, his soul interacts with the upper worlds, and based on those interactions, messages can be transferred to a person's imagination. However, we can't necessarily take the messages seriously, one, because we don't know what the spiritual source of the message is. It could have been from malach, or it could have been from a shade. And even if it was from a malach and the information is true, it's mixed in with other nonsense information just based on the normal physical processes of a person's imagination. And that is what the Ramchal has to say about dreams. Next week, very interesting, we'll be talking about using divine names to affect the physical world and kishuv, witchcraft. This will not be a how-to class, unfortunately, but we will be learning about the topic, which should be very interesting. There's a verse in the Torah that you have to put a witch to death. You shouldn't let her live. He or she lives. So we have to learn what that's all about. All right. Any questions or comments on this week? Okay. Thanks for coming, and stay cool.